We're on. Welcome everyone to this session on SAP, the road to SAP S/4HANA. My name is Naga Surendran, and I'm joined here by Matt Ordish. I'm in the Azure product marketing team focused on SAP workloads on Azure. I've been doing this for a couple of years now, but Matt has a longer history with SAP, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. So Matthew Ordish, I'm the Principal PM Manager for what is essentially SAP Futures. So that's all the development work we do around where we're going with SAP, our SAP directly, or the stuff we do internally that will go to a broader audience. I've been doing SAP about 18 years, 12 of those at Microsoft. I actually just moved to our engineering team for the last 12 years. I helped run our America's Center of Excellence around SAP, so that's the sales and technical teams.
Thanks, Matt. So Matt's got a long history of working with customers, 18 years, 18 months with SAP. So I wanted to get started with first trying to find out where you are in this journey with respect to S/4HANA. So if you've been to SAP events, you probably heard about HANA for a long time and then S/4HANA for the last few years. And as you look at sort of the last 14 years, we still see a lot of customers on ECC 6.0, Suite on HANA or S/4HANA. So maybe a quick show of hands, how many of you are still running ECC 6.0 on AnyDB? So that's about half, looks like, right? So and then how many of you run Suite on HANA? Few, maybe like 10%, 20%. S/4HANA? Okay, just a few. Okay. All right, so that's kind of the pattern we are seeing, but we are also seeing a lot of S/4HANA implementations of late. So let's kind of level set with what SAP calls as S/4HANA, their vision for it, right? So if you look at that, it's really sort of what they call intelligent ERP, the next generation ERP, really built on the in-memory HANA platform, reducing any kind of latency for your transactions, and also simplifying the landscape. With HANA, you're consolidating the landscapes and not having that sprawl of multiple instances that you need to meet your objectives, whether it's transaction volume or reporting needs, right? And then if you look at why S/4HANA, these are some of the benefits that customers have said when they use it, as well as SAP has tried to build features around those, right? So first, it does run on HANA. So as you all probably are pretty familiar with, HANA runs entirely in memory. Of course, it has persistence kind of to disks. That naturally gives an order of performance and eliminates a lot of the bottlenecks in your transactional systems. So that gives you faster transactions. And sort of the second one is really SAP has redesigned the UI framework with Fiori and HTML5. So it's more browser-based, so you're not tied to the desktop with a older UI, right? So it's natural in the sense that you don't have to type transaction codes in the older system. Fiori is click and you can make it role-based, more dashboard-like view. The simplified business process, I mean, this is something that SAP has strived to do, not just kind of change the database. They took a lot of the business processes, they built standard processes. If something had like 20 different tables, they've reduced it. Naturally, that eliminates the footprint, which gives smaller database size, less complexity in terms of maintenance. Intelligent business processes, this is something that SAP started talking about in the last year or so with machine learning, trying to do things like matching invoice with payments automatically, automatic rules, so you don't have to manually intervene in all your workflows. And lastly, the embedded analytics in the ERP, which is more a function of HANA being able to do both OLAP and OLTP on the same database. So they got an extensive set of modules now, right? So that supports, if you remember S/4HANA, when it started, it was just logistics and then central finance. And over time, now today, it's got a full suite of capabilities. So we think S/4HANA is almost there for a lot of customer needs. So to kind of understand why some of the customers who are adopting S/4HANA are doing it, so here's a great example. Orica is a big provider of blasting systems to the oil and gas and construction industry. So they're about 140-year-old company, They really wanted to, they've grown through acquisitions, which is probably the case for a lot of SAP users. They have multiple systems, disparate systems, maybe not all of them are on SAP itself, right? So they really wanted to simplify the landscape, so simple standardizing. And they also had the need to meet GDPR, so they wanted to be compliant. So that was a big driver. So they took an approach of saying, okay, they're going to do a greenfield S/4HANA implementation. They migrated their existing systems to Azure first. That kind of gave them the tools to do GDPR. And also Fiori was a big driver because users are on remote sites, and so they need a more intuitive interface that works on low latency sort of connections. So with that, I will turn it over to Matt to talk about what are some of the challenges that customers are facing today.
Okay. So one of the kind of primary challenges, if you've been running SAP for any length of time, if I was to look back at our SAP system 5 years ago, let's say, and a lot of you were already running kind of NEDB, so that's Oracle, that's SQL, that's DB2, it probably looked exactly the same as it had for 20 years prior to that. There hasn't been a lot of things happening in that space. And there was a real challenge around kind of the speed at which you could change the process. So we face today businesses and customers where the business process can change in real time. Right? We all kind of know of the companies that are out there that do that. So if you're one of their competitors, how do you change your business process equally fast? A lot of customers, when you're in an SAP system, just getting a dev system alone, let alone trying to build something and test it, could take you 3 months. So that means you could do like 4 tests per year. Now, if your competitor is doing these things almost instantaneously, that becomes a real challenge. So that actually slows down the innovation on top of that. If you can't go and test systems out, if you can't have that creativity, then this element slows it down. And frankly, poor insight. So this is about what we talk about, these kind of silos of information. And it was held within the core SAP system. So much of our data today, that is one element, very critical element of it, but IoT data coming in, manufacturing data, data from other corporations and SaaS, and that was part of our announcement yesterday, is how do you start to bring those things together? You can't do that if those systems are sitting in your data center as in a hostess data center, largely because you don't have the computing power to go and do the bigger things. You want to look at real-time data and volumes of data, it becomes a real challenge. So why are we seeing, we got the theme here of S4 in Azure, but it's really about how do we move SAP into Azure? Why are people doing this? S4 is about that simpler process. And again, some of you have taken that journey. Some of you have got Suite on HANA, which starts that out, which is really about looking at acceleration HANA. And many of you are still on NEDB. And we'll talk through what that journey is here, because it's not a case of you just go from on-premise and you end up being on S4 running on the cloud. The key part of it, again, this counts as what we've just seen in terms of the accelerated innovation. If you can go and stand up a system or a dev system in a matter of minutes or matter of hours, as opposed to weeks or months, that ability to go test it out and then bring it back into the actual process and your production system is materially impactful. That also then allows that integration. So this 360 was put in here as part of that announcement we did yesterday with SAP and Adobe, which is really to start taking all of this data and processing it to give you insight. You are rarely going to have a strategic conversation because you run SAP on Azure. It's what do you do with it once it's there. That's the big part. Yes, there are huge benefits for IT. There are huge things that you'll get from it. But the key thing is what do you do once it's there? That's the key opportunity. So again, going back to the many years, I could look at any given SAP system and I could draw you, and it all probably looked the same. There was a set of app servers. There was a set of database servers. It ran on a couple of styles of OS, and it had 3 database styles, and that was it. And it can be immensely complicated because any one of those landscapes, of which there could be many in an organization, you've got production, pre-production, QA, test, dev, sandbox, all proliferates the amount of complexity. Now, if Future State, again, is the new products that SAP are putting into place, but also what we're seeing is this, as we transition, some of the features were held in that core, we're starting to now integrate through SaaS solutions. So whether it's Concur or SuccessFactors, or C for HANA, which is the Hybris element, what is now commercial cloud and the other pieces, those are integrating in. So it's both a strategy of how do you operate your core, plus how do you integrate into the SaaS parts of SAP, and then your other partner pieces, and then how do we extract the data elements for that. And so, you're making a big bet here. So you're going to move something in, and you want to understand what it means and what the future looks like, so that you see a journey today and where you're going to go to in the future. So I think you're going to talk about the VM part, and then I'll talk about some of the options.
Yeah, let me go back one slide. So this journey, how can Azure help you in this S/4HANA journey as you kind of take this path over maybe a year or two, multiple years? So we think of it as 5 things. So first, you need a high-performance infrastructure for HANA. Second, you need a robust infrastructure for your NetWeaver applications while you're running it, while you continue to run it. And lastly, you need secure and well-managed, cost-effective infrastructure. And you also want to work with a provider who has a comprehensive partnership with SAP, so we'll cover that a little bit. And lastly, how do you derive business insights and drive innovation? So starting with sort of the high-performance infrastructure piece, right? So Azure has both virtual machines and bare metal instances that starts from 192 gigs all the way to 24 terabyte. Talking about our virtual machine, these are M-series virtual machines. They can go up to, on a single VM, 128 vCPUs, memory starting from 192 gigs, like I said, to 4 terabyte, and really, architected for high performance in terms of what we have, something called a write accelerator. You can get sub-millisecond latencies for your writes. This is important for HANA logs systems. You have high-speed networking, what we call accelerated networking. These are built with FPGAs to really kind of speed it up, 30 gigabits per second. So it's one of the fastest in the industry for a VM in the public cloud. And then in terms of certifications, we are certified up to 4 terabyte for a single node. You can go up to 15 nodes for scale-out scenarios. Lastly, you can either go on-demand pricing, or you have what we call reserved VM instances where you can pay up front and get significant savings. The other important thing in the VM world is also kind of you can use automation to speed up the landscapes that Matt was talking about, whether it's dev test, or training systems, or even production, right? So I'll show you an example of that. And lastly, at Sapphire, we announced our plans to change the game when it comes to VMs. For a long time, the VMs were limited by the hypervisor up to 4 terabyte. And so we are now going to launch a 12 terabyte VM. So if you have if you're interested in that, so talk to us after the session as well. So that's kind of truly a game changer for HANA in the industry. So along with the VM, you also need high performance sort of storage disks that go along with it. So we have plenty of options. And primarily, it's premium SSD when it comes to HANA that is certified and tested. You might have seen that we just announced a public preview of Ultra SSDs. If you saw the demo, truly mind-blowing performance with 80,000 IOPS, stretching up to 160,000. But for most of today's sort of certification needs, premium SSD meets most of the needs. And you can go with managed disk up to 32 terabytes on a single disk, right? So before I switch to the purpose-built infrastructure, I just wanted to call out that we also have great networking options, things like ExpressRoute and other things to connect your on-premises network in a fast manner to the cloud as well. So
I'm going to take you through kind of the challenges we have with running any SAP system in the cloud. In fact, if you say we think we go back when they launched HANA 8 years ago in 2010, we say the cloud is kind of at its early part of our journey there. You saw the storage a minute ago, and you saw some of the VMs. When I started doing this, we were making up systems which were based out of putting together lots and lots of 500 IOP disks together. And you were literally thinking about where you want to put the disk on there. When you see a single disk today that operates at 160,000 IOPS, the speed that we have gone in the last 4 years from systems that support what we regard as 1,500 SAPs, that's the SAP sizing, to systems today where we can support in excess of 350,000. The key thing is there isn't a system in the world today we couldn't run on Azure. That's a big statement, and certainly when you get into that top 0.5%, there are some things we have to think about. But this is where we have the purpose built. SAP and HANA in many respects is kind of the opposite of cloud. It's based around large core counts, large memory, very fast networking and storage, and cloud is catching up with that. But there is a gap, and so this is where Microsoft has filled it with the purpose built. These are CDI certified hardware that are connected into Azure. So that form part of Azure, or the networking goes through Azure, the other elements and support are all within Azure. But the database actually sits on a physical piece of hardware. And this allows us to give those offerings all the way from 768 all the way up today up to 24 terabytes. And we can also scale that out. We can actually scale out S4 systems. And we can use what's called TDIV5 to go even higher. Now, TDIV5 is something you'll work with SAP on. It's a custom sizing approach. But once you have that, you can have systems that become bigger and bigger. TDIV5 existed because up until then, you really looked at the amount of data you required for the HANA system, so S4 or BW. The problem is you might have had a lot of data with not a lot of users, or a lot of users and not a lot of data. You didn't really have a choice. So today we can actually use this process. And again, we continue to invest this as a first-class citizen of how you want to go and deploy SAP. So today this operates out of 8 regions in the world. That's 2 in the US, Amsterdam and Dublin, Japan and Australia. So as a global footprint, we can go and do that. So this gives you a sense, again, of the scale of what we're doing here. And just to when we think where we started and where this journey is coming 4 years and where we think we're going to be 4 years from now, again, it really is about running any size SAP system in the world. And it is going to be a series of choices. And one of the things you're going to see here is as we evolve VMs, there will be overlap. And this is what we'll work with you on about what is the right thing at the right time. So as we get bigger and bigger VMs and we have things like shared storage and other things come online, you can use that over the large instance. There will always be, though, above 12 terabytes today, you're going to have to take some different options. And this just demonstrates kind of that scope, but also the square of what else we can do that we'd work with you on. Okay.
So let's look at a few customer examples of how they took the S/4HANA journey. So Daimler is a well-known brand, Mercedes-Benz. We all know the awesome cars they make. So they had a challenge in terms of their global procurement system, which was connecting 400,000 suppliers. And they had a homegrown system over the years that they built. And the challenge they were facing was really about updating the system in terms of keeping up and in terms of the business need with speed. Really, with new entrants coming into the car market, they needed to be more agile and innovating with connected cars and IoT and things like that, right? So what they decided to do is look at other options for their ERP with S/4HANA is what they chose. After evaluating, they also went with a partner called iCertis, which does contract management. And then they were looking at cloud providers. They have a big on-prem data center. And when they were looking to test S/4HANA, they started with Azure with M-Series, and they could spin up a VM in literally 30 minutes and get the test going. And that really changed their perspective. And under 3 months, they really they did the greenfield implementation of S4 with iCertis and others. So truly sort of digital transformation being the driver here for the infrastructure. It's not just infrastructure for the sake of it. It's really the cloud's flexibility, agility, coming into play. And of course, they also said in the process, compared to their older system, they were saving 50% in terms of the infrastructure cost. So the legacy systems can weigh you, whether it's hardware, both the software and the maintenance and all of that. So by moving to a more modern framework on Azure, you're saving significant cost as well. So fantastic customer story. That's on the S4 side. So I also wanted to talk about MMG, which is again, a mining and metals company in Australia. They were looking at more of, they already had a BW landscape. They were looking to, again, move to HANA. And when they looked at investing, whether they have to go back into a 3-5 year capex cycle on-prem versus looking at cloud option, it was again an easier choice for them to say, okay, let's just go cloud when we move to HANA. So they moved their BW landscape to HANA. So one of the big drivers for them was around reporting and faster reporting. So HANA naturally enables it, and of course, Azure's high-performance infrastructure boosts it even further. So great story in terms of a customer migrating with BW. So with that, I wanted to give you a sense of how do you take advantage of Azure with HANA and Azure's infrastructure. So let me switch to a demo here. So let me start off with showing you, here is sort of a Fiori interface, as you can see. So it's pretty intuitive. So you got more in a dashboard style tiles. You can basically look at your sales order, and you can edit them if you want to right then and there, right, rather than entering any transaction code. So that's great. So that's S4 naturally gives you that, right? So the question is, how does Azure enable the high performance? So with that, I'm going to show you the actual HANA Studio a little bit. Bear with me in terms of going into the details here. So you can see this has got 1.7 terabyte of data, which is fairly sizable, right? So just to stress the performance of this, so what we did is we also added a data warehouse database on it. And as you can see, this fact internet sales partition, it's AdventureWorks data warehouse sample data set, which we kind of took it to the next level because customers said, we have billions of rows, can you handle it? So here is 100 billion rows, so pretty significant. Now let's kind of stretch that and, okay, let's run a complex query where you are trying to find out between a customer database, a table, and a product database. And if you run it on this, and you can see the results come back in 200 milliseconds, right? So we have heard customers say such scale on an older business suite system could take hours or sometimes even would time out. You would run a batch process, it would time out. So you can imagine if you can run your queries in milliseconds, how much it would speed up your business, right? So now let's switch gears and talk about sort of what's driving this on Azure. So here is the Azure portal, pretty intuitive, and I can, here is my demo system. So it's running on a M series VM. You can see the same 1.7, 1.8 terabyte, right? So if I need to change the size of this, I can just go in here and click. This is one of the benefits of the cloud. When you go on-prem or even hosted environments, you're kind of logged into that configuration for at least 3 years. So you have to forecast your sizing needs, right? With cloud, if I want to change the size, I can just go and say, okay, this is a 2 terabyte today, but I want to go bigger. I want to go to a 4 terabyte. So I can just select it, and then within 30 minutes, less than maybe even 10, 20 minutes, you can just change the sizing of that particular VM. So, and switching gears in terms of the automation. So one of the things is we have a great partner ecosystem. We will cover that a little bit in detail. So we have partnership with Red Hat and SUSE for the HANA operating system that are optimized for SAP. So here are some templates that our partner SUSE, for example, built. So I can go in and say, okay, I want to deploy an entire landscape. I don't want to do it one at a time, install, for example, a jump box VM, a HANA database VM, application server VM. So this could take, again, hours, even in the cloud, right? So you want to simplify that all at once. And we have some reference architectures. So let's pick the 3-tier architecture here. And if I click OK, so it's going to take me into the Azure portal and take me through a simple few steps, right? So I enter the information, and after about 20 or 30 minutes, it's going to deploy the entire architecture 3-tier with VMs on Azure. So here I just need to say create, and it's going to ask me for a few parameters so I can configure my basic settings like username, which region I want it in. I can pick my VM sizes and network. So just to show you, in the interest of time, I created this before the session, so I'm going to show you a S/4HANA demo in terms of the complexity of what the automation can really help solve here. So if you look at here, these are the resources that the automation has created. It's a network security group, so that you have the right sort of security settings. You have VMs, you have disks that are attached to it, whether it is for logs or the actual data. So a bunch of VMs for app servers and things like that, right? So truly sort of, if you look at the number of resources that you need to create for this was a smaller system, about 30 or 40 of these, so if you have to hand code it. And Microsoft is also working on a few different tools on top of the infrastructure. So here is a great example that we published on GitHub, which is again based on Azure ARM template or resource manager templates. So you can script it, and I can basically go and say, deploy to Azure. So the good thing about this particular template is it will also install HANA software. So if you give a URL where you're hosting HANA, it will deploy that as well. And in tomorrow's session that Matt and Tobias will be doing around mission critical applications, they will show a Terraform demo where we are taking it to the next level and talk about how we are truly accelerating your deployment. So I just wanted to give you a sense on that. So kind of how cloud can change bring the new DevOps and Agile methodology to SAP landscapes, right? So with that, I'll have Matt talk about our region rollout a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the things you have to think about when you're running an SAP system that you may have not had to think about, or you could have argued you couldn't afford, is that how do you apply HADR? And so one of the principles we use and what we're showing here is basically your choice globally where you're going to do it. Now, we're talking predominantly probably to a US or an Americas audience here, but we always think about pairing these regions together. So we will talk a little bit later about some of the styles of doing HADR from zones, but in principle, these are what we classify as SAP regions within our total regions within Azure. So you heard Corey, we got 54 that are out there. Not every one of those you're going to go and choose SAP in, because when I think about all the services that I'll need to run it, we have MV1 that's out there today. We have MV2, which is coming, which are the bigger VMs. We have these large physical instances. Again, we don't need those everywhere. So if we look at the US market, for example, 80% of the US market for SAP is in Central and East Coast. So that is where we have US East as a primary, US East 2 is also a primary there. That's actually far enough away to act as a DR site. It's about 220 kilometers. You'll see us probably introduce some other areas in the US as well. US West 2 will become that primary as well. These are what are active at the moment. You'll see us also introduce, as well as geopolitical pairings, so you have Amsterdam, Dublin, we also will introduce very specific country pairings. So in the United Kingdom, or France, or Norway, or Switzerland, you'll start to do that, because you may have data sovereignty requirements and need to operate in those areas. So again, this is by choice. Some of you may run a single global footprint, others may run a distributed architecture. And just give you an example of where in the world we're operating today. So we talked a little bit about what this runs on. So when we're in the context of HANA rather than NADB, it's clearly going to be one of two flavors of SUSE. Of Linux. So just a sense today, if you go, who, I know some of you haven't moved across to this, but how many of you have SUSE as your standard today? So, okay. And how many have Red Hat as your standard? Okay. Okay. Some of you don't have it, it would appear at all. So one of the challenges is Red Hat is the dominant kind of distribution for everything other than SAP, and SUSE is the kind of dominant one for SAP applications. So you have a choice there, and this is really about having that choice for you. Both of these have support with us. You've just seen us, given us an example of actually building off that within templates. I'll give you a quick example of some of the work we're doing with SUSE as well that goes beyond initially just getting the distribution. The first part of that was then having that distribution optimized for SAP. We're also then going to be looking at that distribution being optimized as well, specifically the kernel level optimization for Azure. And so again, we're working hand in hand with both of these partners to look at how we make sure you have that fantastic experience of deployment and support to move your SAP systems forward. So the journey is some of you are on NADB, and some of you are on Suite on HANA, and some of you are going on to S4. So you're going to make some choices here. You may not be ready for S4, but you may be ready to get out of your data center. That may be that compelling event, whether it be hardware, whether it be just strategy. And so what do you do in between? So this is where Microsoft started our journey, is making sure that you can run the NetWeave. In fact, we still deploy a lot of those things today. Probably 50% of everything we're deploying is still sitting on this. Now, we see a lot of people moving just like Oracle systems up. We see a lot of people looking how they move their DB2 systems. And we have a lot of SQL. And we actually have a lot of customers that go from Oracle to SQL on Azure, and then that sets them up to then go do S4. So it's about, because for many of us, that journey of going to S4 into the cloud in one jump is culturally too complex. It's too big a problem. So how do I get into the cloud, make sure I understand how it operates, my security, my operations, get my system, close my data centers, and then I get the option to go move forward as S4 matures. This gives us some of the examples of everything we can run. If you're going to run Oracle, you're going to have to run that on Oracle Linux, because that's the only thing that actually SAP and Oracle are supporting.
So Matt talked about sort of, a lot of customers still moving with SQL or whatever their current databases, and then taking the step to HANA or S4. While we see a lot of greenfield implementation, some customers do choose, for a variety of business reasons, to kind of lift and shift and benefit from the cloud's agility and high performance and latest hardware. So here is a good example. Rio Tinto has a massive sort of landscape, thousands of VMs that they had. They have about a petabyte of storage and that they needed to move, right, over the years that they've archived or other business analytics reasons. So they were on IBM DB2. So in this case, it's digital transformation was the driver. They were looking at everything, including collaboration tools, all the way to infrastructure. So they had an ambitious sort of, I think, several $1 billion reduction that they wanted to drive with the cloud. So they started with Office 365 and got some of those benefits from collaboration and things like that, right? So when they looked at their SAP landscape, which is a big part of their infrastructure, like I said, it's 8 terabytes and two databases. So they moved all the SAP landscape and the surrounding application. They vacated out of 4 data centers. So in this case, digital transformation driving, saying, hey, we no longer want to be in the infrastructure, business managing hardware, let's just take advantage of the cloud. So great example, and sort of this set them up for IoT and things like that on Azure that they're looking at right now. Another example of a customer, Dairy Farmers of America. So they are based here, so they supply a lot of the milk products and others that we all use every day. So their footprint over the years, they had, again, grown through acquisition. This is a theme that you will see, mergers and acquisitions and how SAP systems have come about. They had about 18 data centers, and they looked at, I think they said they went to Sapphire and they figured out SAP and is running their entire SAP cloud platform in 17 data centers. And they said, just for the SAP system, why should we be running 18 data centers? So it doesn't make sense. So let's figure out a way to consolidate. And they really just wanted to lift and shift and first benefit from the cloud. Again, they also looked at open text as an archiving solution that they were running. They wanted a cloud that supported all those surrounding applications as well. So they reckon it's their system. So you will see this a consistent theme in terms of cost savings. It's bringing in agility, and then lastly, getting out of the operations, the IT, to kind of really drive business insights and take on newer applications, right? So in driving business impact. So next, so we saw sort of how Azure provides high performance, scalable infrastructure to meet all the workload needs. You also want to make sure it's secure and well managed, even in the cloud, right? So even in the cloud, you got to spend a lot of time managing it. So this is where Azure truly differentiates itself. So Azure has heavy investments in security. You would have heard that we spend upwards of $1 billion per year. We have 3,500 security experts. So we have cyber defense systems that are not only looking at Azure, sort of the internet, and detecting threats and preventing them, right? So you've heard a lot of those stories. So Azure Security Center gives you like a single pane of glass for all your cloud infrastructure, as well as on-premises. So it can connect into, if you install an agent for some of your on-premises while you're in a hybrid mode, you can do that as well. So Azure always looks at hybrid possibilities. We know customers, when they transition, they might be running some systems on-prem and some in the cloud, so we do that as well. So things like just-in-time access to ports. So you can say, you're going to block all your VMs, and so, if you just want to give access to someone for an hour, you don't have to open up the port and leave it open for a long time. And if you forget, then you have an attack vector right there. So just-in-time access, things like network map visualization, and you can drill down and see where the packets are coming in, application level whitelisting. So we also introduced at Ignite something called a secure score. It looks at your, kind of like your credit score, how secure are you based on best practices, in terms of locking down ports, disk encryption, and things like that. So it really, single pane of glass, fantastic way to take advantage of Azure security. The second one is identity. So identity is sort of key to making sure users are not creating multiple passwords and creating easy passwords. So we all as consumers also face this, right? Password sprawl. I keep visiting a site after 3 months and I hit the forget password, right? I no longer remember because every site has its own unique set of combinations of someone wants a special symbol, someone wants a capital letters. So this is where I think Azure AD can truly help your users and standardize the access across. So you can do Active Directory on Azure and connect them with AD Connect, and then it not only can connect to sort of all the Microsoft applications, but also SAP applications. And no, it's not restricted to just that. It's pretty much any SaaS application that is SAML-based, single sign-on, right? You can connect to it. So it makes your life easier in terms of administering it. So I'll let Matt talk a little bit about the high availability.
Yeah, so when you think about how you might deploy all of this, there's going to be a set of choices. Again, it comes back, we just showed you the map of where these regions are. But you're also going to have a set of choices of what your HADR requirements are. And it's amazing how many times I'll go and talk to a CIO or a company, and I'll ask them, and I'll be talking to folks, and they'll say, "Oh, we've got to have it right now. It's got to, RPO and RTO times are in minutes." And you go and say, "Absolutely, we can go build that." Okay. The difference, though, between 99.99 and 99.9 may, in certain environments, be millions of dollars. And so, have you asked the business that? And you say, "Yeah, the business said actually, if we get it tomorrow, that's also okay." So it is key to define what the business actual requirements are. Have the business drive the design for you, rather than you say, "Hey, I need the fastest or the quickest failover." But one of the things that's obviously unique to Azure is the ability to provide a single SLA for single VMs. And we're going to talk about an example where a customer actually just uses that. They don't actually have other architectures. They just use that single VM architecture. If you're running that on a managed disk, on premier storage, you're going to have very, very high SLAs on that. The next is obviously to utilize availability sets. This is the protection of a VM going down and another one taking over. The third part is what we're introducing is availability zones. So this is to, again, these are all HA devices, to be clear. They are to protect in case of a VM failure, and what we call a rack failure, which is a single rack. A rack sits inside a cluster, so we have a cluster failure. Or we could have a total DC failure. So to give you a sense, a region has many DCs within it. And within that region, there are many zones within it. And so those zones are autonomous to one another. So you operate here and back it up to tape. A truck would arrive, you'd give them the truck, it'd go off site, and you hope it never failed because you'd have to try and recover it. Now there are built-in features within Azure, whether it be VM backup or SQL backup or HANA backup that we're working on, where you can inherently back it up, take it into a VM, move it out of that site, move it into a different location, and have that ability to instantaneously recover it. When we look at what we're doing for our HANA large instance, we actually have disk snapshotting. So with the ability to instantaneously snapshot the entire data and have that available for your recovery is part of the offering that comes out of that. And obviously, you can, if you're already using partner solutions today, you can overlap that as well. We've talked a little bit about disaster recovery. You wouldn't use, just to be clear, ASR is a great process if the system is stopped or if it's protecting the application servers. You can't use ASR to basically protect an in-flight database. You've got HANA system replication that we've already talked about, and how do we do HSR, whether it be a single node or HSR on a cluster for scale out on S4 RBW. And then obviously if you're still using, NADB, features like SQL Always On and having that ability to stand up are all supported. So I'm going to hand over, we'll just talk a little bit about this customer.
Yeah, so talking about customer in terms of the single, Matt talked about the single instance SLA that we offer, right? So for this customer, Festo, they were basically looking at S4 HANA implementation for their project management, portfolio management product. And this was a key driver for them. They didn't really want to build a HA system, but the fact that 3 nines was sufficient for their business needs, and so single instance SLA was important, and we see that with a lot of customers for different types of system. They don't want to invest even in the cloud. You got to pay for the other system. With disaster recovery, you technically can just replicate the data with snapshot and then bring up compute on demand. But if you want HA, you have to have both systems running so that you can do a quick failover. But with VM, you can restart the VM, and if you're okay with that 3 nines SLA, then this is a fantastic way to save some costs as well and meet the business objectives. We talked a little bit about the automation, right? So on the left is a screenshot of how you would install HANA if you were to do it by hand. On the right side, you have sort of a WYSIWYG, sort of a wizard-like setup that we can do it with ARM template, or you can also use things like Terraform, right? So truly a game changer. The other part on the management is, of course, compliance, right? So Azure really has a lot of compliance certifications, 85. Every time I build this slide, we have to update it in a couple of weeks because we are making sure we meet all the different regulatory and compliance needs. So I think the last count was 85. I used to say 74 in the last month or so, or 2 months, it's become 85. Cost savings, if you're running HANA, you certainly want to, if you're using M series or even the HANA large instance, we have commitment pricing where you can pay up front and get up to 70% off. And if you're running Windows Server for either the application server or even for the NADB scenario, we have something called Azure Hybrid Benefits. You probably would have heard about it. You can bring your licenses and save cost with that. In addition, if you look at the competition, it's 3x more expensive on the other side, right? So here is putting it all together, right? So how does, here is a customer, Guyana Goldfields. They were looking at S4 HANA implementation. Again, greenfield in their case. They had a legacy sort of ERP from a smaller player. And they looked at, and the key driver for them was the orchestration piece, what they said in the cloud. In their older hosting provider, if they needed to get a network firewall rule change, they needed to support, file a ticket and wait for maybe the SLA was 24 hours. Whereas with Azure, they could just go log in and change the firewall rules then and there, right? So many such things, they could do it themselves. They have a very small team, and so they were able to scale their operations because of that. So with that, I'll let Matt talk about our unique partnership with SAP and also how we enable the ecosystem.
This keeps you guessing who's going to present the next slide. So I think you saw yesterday getting Bill McDermott on stage with Satya and the CEO of Adobe as well. It's a big deal. You should have the expectation that you've made a bet on Microsoft, you made a bet on SAP, and on some of our other strategic partnerships, and you expect that to work together. And so this actually goes back 23 plus years now of real co-engineering. And what is uniquely different from what some of our competitors do is we run Microsoft on SAP. We are one of the biggest SAP systems in the world. And we'll show some of those details in a second. But that is a proving ground to running mission-critical solutions. If we can run this, and we've actually just gone live with this in February of this year, because we've had to wait for those VMs to be large enough and some of the critical pieces to be there. But we run this system 100% on Azure today. And we're also starting that S4 journey. So the simple finance piece that we're butting in that complements our core NADB system, which is all running on SQL, is there. So that's a key part of that relationship. Also, SAP has upward of 16 internal LOB systems operating on Azure today as well. So that's a proof point about that. How do we do that? We actually take that engineering feedback and say, hey, we need HANA to do this, or SAP says, we expect Azure to go and do that. And so we don't wait in terms of partnership and say, hey, I need an API, and they call us up and we hand it to them. We actually start to co-develop on that. In fact, we have engineers that are based out in Germany. We have engineers based in Redmond that are co-developing across all these planes today. So how do we do management? What compute sizes do we need? Where do we need to go operate this all around the world? How do we think about having near zero downtime for HANA? And that is a unique part that you'll see is continuing to develop. We talked a little bit about Microsoft internally. Just gives you a little bit of a sense about how big that system is. So if you ever wonder, well, yes, but my system's huge and it's different from everybody else and it's really complicated, you can rest assured that it's probably not as complex as a technology company that implements SAP and thinks it knows better than everybody else going to do it. It's a complex system. If you look at the magnitude of modules that operate, really every module SAP sells is behind this system. That's pretty remarkable. I'll give you just a few points. 110,000 users use SAP every day, but probably not more than about 2,000 of them, which are the hardcore internal people using SAP GUI, would ever know that that was occurring. Things like 0.4 seconds response times on your experience when you're integrating to SAP across that anywhere in the world is a huge achievement. 16 terabytes fully compressed SQL system would obviously be an extraordinarily large HANA system when we start to move that forward. It gives you a little bit of a sense about that, where we are. These are some of the things we're also doing specifically with SAP outside of those core pieces. So the HANA SAP Cloud Platform now operates on Azure, so you can make a choice to go and deploy that and think about deploying that in close proximity to where your core SAP systems are sitting. So again, whether you're developing this as an extension of SAP or you're just using the SCP platform to go and build additional applications on HANA and some of the other features, these things are all now operating and running, and you have an option for Azure. ABAP, there are 4.5 million ABAP developers. Who would have known? But there are a lot of people out there that this is what they program in. And so having that ability to now take or hooking in directly into things like Event Hub, Cosmos DB, Azure Data Lake, and actually forming that as part of an extended solution becomes a key part. So again, we're looking at the developer, we're looking at hosting, we're looking at the SaaS solutions they have on top of that as well. So really any of those parts. We showed as well, some of you may be familiar with what's called the Cloud Application Library, the ability to just go to SAP's site, choose the module we want to try, click a button, and deploy it directly into Azure. This again allows you to accelerate your experience there. We announced yesterday as well the SAP Data Custodian. So that's really going to be focused on extending the work that SAP is focused on around GRC. So it's taking a lot of the features that we have on Azure today and putting a control plane across the top, or a single pane. And we'll continue to develop that out with US customers and with SAP directly. Well, it is all about choice, though. So whether you choose to go and operate SAP on your own, whether you choose to work with a partner, or whether you choose to work with SAP directly, one of the things that you may have heard of or be familiar with is HANA Enterprise Cloud. And so working directly with them to say, look, I have that relationship with SAP. I trust them to come operate and run it. You can now run HEC on Azure. And we'll be rolling out that in more regions and more of the VMs and things like that. But this is something we announced at the end of last year. And continue to evolve throughout Sapphire. And you'll see that reach parity and being available in more and more areas. So talking of partners, I'll hand it back to Naga.
So Matt talked about our extensive partnership with SAP. So we also equally have some great set of partners on the SI ecosystems or ISVs, whether it's the global SIs like the Accentures and Capgemini and Wipros of the world, or regional SIs who focus on certain markets like Mike Cloudor, it's based in Spain, or Protera in the US, or Softec in LATAM, T-Systems in Germany and worldwide. So we've got the needs covered. And we know many of our customers say they already are working with a preferred partner, so we want to enable that. So if you see a partner that's not listed here, very likely they're already a partner. They're probably not mentioned here because I think we have like 220 partners that are registered to work with us on the SAP ecosystem. So with that, I'm just going to switch to the last point. How do you, so this is great. So you got some great infrastructure. We understand SAP really well, or we run it. But what does it mean for your business users? So how do you derive business insights and accelerate your innovation, right? So this is where Azure's data services can come into play, bringing a data pipeline for your SAP and non-SAP data. We always hear from customers that 50 or 60% of their data is in non-SAP systems, whether it is point of sale data or whether it is external data, like weather, now with IoT and web clickstream and things like that, right? So you can bring those two together with things like Azure Data Factory, which has connectors to multiple data sources, and then bring them into Azure Data Lake, which is petabytes of scale data that you can store relatively inexpensively, right? And you can run experiments and then use things like Azure Databricks for Apache, Spark, or Hadoop-based systems, right? And then run your machine learning models either with Spark, and then finally deliver it in a format on a data warehouse to Power BI, or to your applications. You can create REST API endpoints to mobile apps and things like that, right? So truly an end-to-end, taking the data into insights. So with that, I will talk a little bit about Power BI and give you a demo. So Power BI is, you probably have gone to a few of the sessions, are familiar with it. It's a free tool on the desktop, so it has a reporting service, and we have built-in connectors for SAP HANA and BW. So I'll show you that a little bit in action, and then we can switch back. So here we have a pretty complex dashboard that our team has built, example of a retailer that is looking at revenue by different geographies. I can hover over and look at it. I can look at year-on-year revenue by product group and things like that, right? So, or I can also ask a question about my data. I can say, show me revenue by, particular week, for example, in this case, and right now it's at week 10, so it's switched to week 8, as you can see. And within that, I can drill down. I can go in and say, okay, I want to look at only certain segments. So naturally, as you can see, all of these change. And I can go back and say, okay, I want to week 10, or I can even change the category, right? So show me revenue for consumer digital, right? So an intuitive way for you to ask questions. And on the mobile, we've also, let's see if that came through. That one didn't come through. So you can also, on the mobile side, you can use Cortana to do a voice-activated way of looking at things. The other thing is, if you go back, you can combine, if you look at revenue analysis, and all of this data is based on SAP's COPA data that has been brought into Azure Data Warehouse and Data Lake, right? You can start to do things like R programming within Azure Data Services and do predictive modeling, right? And you can do product group mix on how they are doing, or you can do price volume mix and see, your finance teams can look at sort of a waterfall model and see how each product, if you change pricing, how is that contributing to your profit or not, right? So pretty complex things that you can do. But at the same time, your business users can easily connect to HANA if you would like that. For example, I can go here and say get data, and I can say, pick my sources. There are a bunch of sources here, and I can look at SAP HANA database, and I have once I select that, I have two options that should show up. So you can see that it has two options. One is you can import the data, or you can do what is called direct query, right? So which means the data doesn't come out of the SAP system, it stays there. So I'll give you an example of a direct query that I've already ran. So here I have a database query that I've run, right? So I can then, this is connecting in real time to HANA, right? So it's got about 37 million rows. I can load it, and once it's loaded, I can, well, I guess okay. I'm going to pick the directory and let it run. And well, maybe not this one, so I will switch to a different source. See if that works for you. So there you go. So this is loading the data, and once I load it, I can create all my visualizations with just a few clicks, right? So on the right-hand side, I think the resolution is really, so I can, for example, look at all the different product ID data, and it is, and let's see, and I can drag my revenue into it, and it will show me, product and revenue, and I can change my visualization. There you go, it's taking a little while, and I can, for example, go in and say I want a bar chart for this. So I'm not the best Power BI expert, so don't judge Power BI based on my expertise, so I'm on the SAP side. But just wanted to give you sort of a preview of what you can achieve, and you have a lot of other Power BI sessions, so you should go take a look on how you can take advantage of that for your SAP needs by using Azure Data Services. Oops. Okay. So a great example is a customer here, Reckitt Benckiser. So they actually were running on AWS, and they wanted to build a data warehouse to combine their SAP systems and visualize it and basically put it in the hands of their salespeople who are mobile, and combining the POS system data and the transactional data, really to look at how the products are moving in different segments and geographies. And they didn't have that. They had a rigid reporting system before that, and they switched and started looking at Power BI, and then switched to Azure for their data needs in terms of building that data pipeline. So they now are combining their SAP data, even though it's not running on Azure, you could do that as well, and bring that together and enabling them with mobile applications. So in terms of other benefits that you would get, a lot of SAP customers are also looking at IoT. Azure has extensive investments in IoT. A good example is Rockwell Automation, where they were looking at, in the oil and gas industry, they wanted to be more innovative, so they are fitting IoT sensors into all their drills and other things, and they wanted to use that and use predictive maintenance to reduce operational expenditure. They reckon they're saving about $300,000 a day by implementing this. And the data itself is coming into HANA as a data mart, and that runs on HANA large instances. So, and I didn't cover various other services that you can take advantage of in Azure in terms of EA and other things. So we are, because of this, the extensive capabilities that you just saw in terms of infrastructure, data, the SAP development needs, and so on, right? So we are seeing increasing momentum. All the big brand names that we just talked about. We have Coca-Cola actually presenting a session, Kona Services, on Thursday, actually I believe Thursday morning, about migration and how they migrated their large-scale landscape. So I encourage you to check it out. I will have the session codes here in a minute. Second here, Malaysia Airlines, they were looking at their IBM hardware end of life. They wanted to migrate, and so they are now running a large-scale landscape. Penti was a retailer in Turkey. They were looking at a greenfield S/4HANA implementation, and so on. So we can give you a number of references of customers running mission-critical SAP systems. So I wanted to leave you with 3 key takeaways, right? So it's really, when you're looking at your provider for SAP, it's really what sets Azure apart is the deep partnership between SAP at various levels that Matt kind of walked you through. And then the second is when you look at HANA, we have the most powerful and scalable cloud, and we keep investing in it, right? So we want to be the market leading to meet all your needs with respect to scale and performance, and also the region capacity. And lastly, in terms of security and enterprise proven platform with digital transformation capabilities, whether it's data, IoT, AI. So you get the full end-to-end business transformation benefits when you use Azure for your SAP needs. So with that said, I do want to encourage you to go to the other sessions, right? So we have a session tomorrow that about architecture, goes more deeper dive into HA and DR and the automation pieces that Matt and Tobias will be working through. We have a session on how Microsoft runs SAP as well, so tomorrow. And on Thursday, we have David South from Kona that will be talking about migration. We have some migration strategies from how Microsoft approached it. And lastly, Capgemini and again, Kona will share some of the industry insights from a transformation perspective. So with that, I would stop, and maybe we have some time to take some questions, and we can, if you want to come up to the mic, and we can answer some of the questions that you might have.
So silence indicates that we answered every possible question that you walked into this room wanting to have answered. I'd be amazed if we did, but...
Looks like we might. Oh, there you go. Okay. Do you want to come up to the mic if you don't mind? Okay.
On-premise, do you guys have services to help get your data in a quick fashion? Like if you have a few HANAs worth of data, you want to get it up?
Yeah, so the question is, if I'm running HANA today on-premise, how would I get that up into the cloud? In the session tomorrow, we'll talk more about some of those things. There are, depending on the volume of data and the amount of time you can take to take that system offline, will determine some of the strategies. Sometimes it's just down to bandwidth. We have customers that will connect a super high-speed ER. They'll go up to like 10 GB or multiple of those for a period of time to transfer. We can also do things in HANA like use HSR, so we'll fail into Azure, so we're not having to transmit all that data at the same time. But we'll walk through some of those strategies tomorrow. But those are kind of the key things. Either you back it up, stop it, take the backup, go place it up there, bring the backup up, and then transmit the differences, or you fail into it, or you just stop it, take the backup file, and go and recover it. They're kind of the three principles.
Yeah, and I wanted to add to that in terms of backup, and you stand up a system, and then we have seen customers kind of then run HSR to catch it up,
Yep.
right? So while you might have that little bit of a window,
Yep.
offline window, right? So.
In one of the slides, you mentioned SQL Always On as one of the technologies that could be used. And that's an active solution, but my understanding...
Asynchronous way, right? So it's more even HSR, so I think that was for DR that I probably mentioned.
Well, I think that was for AnyDB for SQL. So SQL today runs, you can run synchronous and asynchronous nodes as well.
Okay, but with HANA, there is no active solution for that. So what's the solution going forward to do that? That's what customers want, right?
Yeah, so that's great feedback. And that's actually something we're working with SAP on. Because if you look at Oracle or DB2 or us, the ability to essentially take an entire database offline with zero impact to the customer, to your operations, is something that's frankly been around for many years. Even with all the hardware we have in place, we can certainly protect the data, so the RPO can be zero, but the time to recovery, even if I acknowledge a failure, and depending on the structure, it still has to acknowledge it and fail it over. One of the challenges is it's literally how do we replicate the things that are in memory? So how do I take the RAM, the memory that's in this RAM here, and go transmit it again into the machine on the left or right side of it? That's something we'll have to continue to work with SAP on about how we do that. We're trying to reduce that down, so being quicker to acknowledge that there's a possible failure, automatically taking that over. We do that, obviously, whether it be the app server level or the ASCS central instance layer, how do we protect that? But really at that core database, it becomes more challenging, certainly when it becomes kind of bigger and bigger. If you're running a scale out for BW, you can run N+1, so you can have a node failure where the new node comes in, it'll run slowly as it reads from disk, and then it will come back up again. But there will be a time when that system goes offline. If that query happened to be on the node that failed, that's in-flight transaction, will essentially not be executed. So yeah, it's something that we encourage you to talk to SAP about. It's something that we're talking to them about. But yes, there are some differences on HA that are different from what we've been using today.
Can I ask a second question?
You can.
So with HANA's required for S4 as the backend database, so SQL is not an option versus any of the others. But why would that be the case with, in-memory databases for SQL and performance? I mean, what's the advantage of the HANA database for performance over SQL in-memory databases and things?
Yeah, great question. So let's step back. I'll try and act it. It's actually a long answer, but I'll try and be as succinct. If you think about the ECC platform and NetWeaver actually is the platform, one of its advantages was it was independent of the underlying database. So the NetWeaver, you would ask a query, the RFC would translate that, and then it would just ask a standard SQL command back onto the database. And that worked fine when you were consolidating stuff and you had smaller systems. But what SAP acknowledged was the only way to get real acceleration of data, whether it be just executing queries or actually moving returning that, was to put some of that processing down at the database layer. So if you've been working on databases for years, you would have done things like stored procedures and compile code that sit there. Because they're independent of the database, they couldn't do it. The other challenge was there are 180,000 tables in SAP. And so when you execute a query, it would go and ask one table some information. That would become a parameter for the next query and so on and so forth. That takes a lot of time. One of the ways is to place that into memory so you aren't having to read from the disk or the disk cache to do that. So that was one of the things. Now, why S4? So those of you that are on Suite on HANA, that is essentially just your NEDB sitting on HANA. So what you probably don't have a huge difference there other than what SAP implemented were views. Those views, instead of going to all the different tables, they put a view across the table and accelerated that into memory. What they needed to do, though, is actually go and rewrite the code that sat underneath. So they can embed code down on the database level, they can reduce the amount of tables that are there, and then those pieces go and sit within an S4. So the challenge was, because you're taking now a dependency on the underlying database, the fact that it happened to be in memory was far less important relative to the dependency than the fact that it's just hard-coded into it. And it's the right solution to solve a problem of accelerating data. But yes, SAP, if you're running on SQL today, you can enable a lot of the in-memory features, because to get them all to work on Suite on HANA, which is an NEDB and the classification of that, they had to do a bunch of work underneath. But that's there's a much longer explanation of that, but it's really a core architectural change that went and placed that into memory. Any other questions?
You mentioned that you offer physical deployments of HANA in the cloud. How does that work?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's in the cloud, does it? So the question was, when we talked about these HANA large instances, what does that mean? So the key challenge, again, is when we started this journey, the biggest VM we had available was 484 gig. Even the smallest HANA system tends to be bigger than that. So the problem is, well, how do you start that journey if you can't have VMs big enough? And this is a cloud problem, not a Microsoft problem as such. So the way we thought about it is, we're going to be doing a lot of the downstream systems on VMs, dev, test, QA, but those production systems, and because of the requirements that I talked about in terms of IOPS, memory, processors, cores, we couldn't meet on VMs yet. So we took a path and said, we'll have two strategies. We will have a physical large instance strategy to go do this, which means that it's the database alone that sits there and is operated, and everything else is in Azure. So you come in through the express route, your app servers sit on there, your single instance, your load balancers are on there, and then the database resides on physical hardware. As VMs become bigger, you saw that with 4 TB, you'll see that with 12 TB, the requirement to use what we classify, you'll sometimes hear us talk about HLI and VLI, that just means large instances, they're machines up to 4 socket, and then VLI are machines that are 8 socket and above. So we have machines today that are 20 socket machines. There isn't a VM that has 24 terabytes and 960 cores on it. And there may never be one. Not because we can't technically do it, but it makes no financial sense to do it, because they become outliers. So the strategy will always have to be our first party strategy to make all our VMs run that workload. But we know that the market has a delta between what VMs can do and what physical can do. And again, that's where we co-engineer with SAP. Let's see if we can make HANA smaller. We can scale it out in smaller nodes. And I think when you see us go to the 12 TB, that'll cover probably 80% of the market. We'll be able to scale those out for BW. We'll be able to scale up on those as well for S4. So think about, we could actually scale out 2 of those to create like 24 TB S4 systems. That's a large S4 system. That would actually be larger than Microsoft's, which is one of the biggest in the world. So VMs continue to be that first part, but the physical is still a first-class citizen to meet all of your needs. You may expand over that. So that's why we have that essentially dual strategy.
Yeah, I wanted to add to what Matt said in terms of the scale-out piece, right? You saw with TDI V5, you can go up to 120 terabytes. So truly some of the 10% of the customer base which wants that scale. And we call it purpose-built because it's not just compute and bare metal. It's got the persistent NFS storage, so you can run scale-out scenarios and failover faster, right? And it's got 40 gigabits per second. It's backbone. It's truly optimized for HANA. So if you want that performance and the scale, then you would still look at it.
But how would the management happen? How would I manage changes to the physical machine?
Yeah.
Like when you were showing us before with the VM, I can change the vCPUs, I can change the RAM.
Yeah.
How would it work with a physical
So
machine?
so there's 2 parts to that question. How do I manage it? How do I get visibility to something that's physical? And then how would I change it? And the 2 things are slightly different. Because in HANA systems, from a database perspective, you're not just going to go and change it. But you may, as you progress up through the size, you can stop a VM and you can go up to the next family size. That is not done in an automated fashion on physical, although what happens behind the scenes can, depending on size. They are the compute nodes that sit on tap are not aware, they don't have a boot drive on them, they pull from storage. So you can say, I'm going to stop this size blade, I need that size blade, I stop it, I point it, I bring it back up again. What we're doing is integrating the control. We'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow. We're actually going to announce some things at TechEd next week about having that single control plane. That both gives you the visibility, again, first-class citizen, you shouldn't be worried about how it gets implemented. You should say, I need compute between this size and this size, and I need a journey as my company follows that journey. And so having that control plane in terms of visibility and the control actions is the aim. There will be things that are always different because of the architecture, but our strategy is to have them have the same control plane.
Yeah, as Matt said, we are trying to make that seamless in terms of the experience for both, and in the portal where you can look at the bare metal or physical machines as well. So that's coming. Yeah. You'll probably talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more tomorrow, and certainly I'd be happy to chat after about some of the complexity. Obviously, physical machines don't have a control plane around them. VMs do. I can monitor it, I can do all sorts of things, I can see the health. Physical machines don't. There are controllers that are looking at the underlying piece about how the machines are operating, how the storage is operating, but how do we're thinking about some really interesting things about how do you encapsulate physical machines to control them. So again, that's something that comes into other programs, because that program is part of a team that we are part of that also runs things like Cray, supercomputers, or NetApp as a service, or VMware, or SkyTap, or there's a series of things that you will need to move from your data center that won't fit in VMs today. So that forms part of that strategy.
Great. Okay, I think there is one more. Yeah.
So we haven't launched those yet. So we're actually launching.
VMs, yeah.
They'll become available kind of H1 of next year, where we'll get the 6 and 12 terabytes. We'll be starting running tests with certain test customers, hopefully before the end of the year. But that's a very large instance, 12 TB. But we actually think that when we think about the total VM offering and where we put that around the world, we expect that's probably to cover 80% of that market.
Any plans to bring M series to Central and Central South?
Great question. We will continue. So there's a couple of things that we have done in terms of how do we think about compute. So that's part of my role, is to think about where should we go and butt these. A lot of it is driven by the market. Where do we need that? Both from the sense of where SAP customers are, where And also, where does it need to be to fail into? So there's obviously, when we look at the US, there's a lot of companies based out of that region. So down in oil and gas are there. Some retailers are down there. We've announced certain things with people like Chevron where we're doing stuff. So I could see those becoming. There's certainly things that we're thinking about, and we'll look to announce some of those things. Can't guarantee it, but we're certainly looking at that. And we would apply that logic around the world as well. Where there's a market, putting those geo pairs together is our strategy.
Great. I think with that
We have.
over our
We
time.
are over
here,
1 minute.
Right? Okay. So thank you for all the great questions, and thanks for coming to this session. So you can, we'll stay around if you want to chat a little bit more and ask questions. Thank you.